Hi, my name is Stephen James from ProjectLifeMastery.com, and I make anywhere from $2 to $3 million per year as pure profit after any expenses. I'm a multi-millionaire. I'm 32 years old. I'm an entrepreneur. I run several online businesses, and I'm also an investor. And the only reason why I share those things with you is to lend some credibility behind what I'm going to share with you in this video, because I dropped out of college. And I'm going to share with you why I dropped out of college and why actually dropping out of college for me was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, because I would not be where I am today or who I am today if I did not make that decision. So really what I'm here to do in this video is provide for you a different perspective, a different mindset, not just of myself, but some of the most successful people in the world that have also done a similar thing, whether that's Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook or Bill Gates from Microsoft, who had dropped out of Harvard, one of the most prestigious schools out there, and how it was also one of the best decisions they made in their life as well. And how oftentimes society, our parents, our teachers, our peers, they've conditioned us to believe that school and university is the way towards success. That you've got to get great grades, you've got to go to a great school, graduate, get your degree, get a great job, and then you live happily ever after. And I challenge that model. I think there's different lifestyles that people want to create, or a vision or a career or a mission they might have, where that might be the best path for you, but it's not the only path. It is not, I believe, the best path for success and financial abundance and freedom, which is, I believe, a lot of people want and they're attracted to in their life. That there's many different options today that exist that didn't exist before, that has changed a lot of that. And that this conditioning, you have to understand, is just a path, and there's many other roads that I believe can be more efficient, more cost effective for sure, in terms if you look at, if you put a certain amount of money towards your university education and you take that same amount and you put it into some of these other ways of educating yourself and growing that I'm going to share with you in this video, time-wise, learning-wise, there's many benefits and many flaws, I think, to the system, and benefits to these alternative approaches towards getting to where you want to go. So listen, let me share with you guys my story. I was a horrible student, guys. When I was in school, in high school, man, I was a C- student. I barely graduated high school. I just found ways to get by, had no motivation towards going to school. I was only there because my mom made me be there, my parents made me be there, and I had to do it because everyone else was doing that, and you got to graduate from high school. I had a hard time learning. I thought I had a learning disability. In fact, that label was put on me by my teachers. They thought I had dyslexia because I had a difficult time learning and retaining information. And later on, what I had learned is that we all have different styles of learning, and that the school system is catered towards one specific style, but not everybody learns that way. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses and different learning styles. And so here I was in an environment that was not the most conducive to my own learning. And I was going to school and not retaining and getting that much value from it, just barely graduating, barely getting by. Some people, they're more visual, right? They learn maybe by watching videos, for example, or being in an environment in a classroom and seeing the demonstrations, seeing the visual elements from that. That's the best way that they learn. Other people are more auditory. They learn by listening or hearing. Maybe for you, that's a podcast or audiobooks. And then others are more kinesthetic, and they learn by doing, right? By actually, they got to get their hands, dirty, I guess, and they've got to be involved in the process, and they learn more by doing than just sitting there passively and observing. So there's all these different styles, and that was one of the reasons why I realized that environment was not conducive towards the most efficient way for me to learn and grow. It's very flawed because it's only catered towards a certain style of learning, right? And now there's a lot of studies and research now that is supporting what I just shared of how we all have different ways of learning, and unfortunately the school systems haven't really caught up and evolved to that. It's a kind of a stuck system that doesn't change that much, which can be a little bit frustrating. So anyways, I was a horrible student. I couldn't wait to graduate. For me, that was like the end of my education at that point. But at the time, I was getting into self-development too. And I'm thankful for that because it provided a different alternative, a way of self-educating myself. So here I was, though, I graduated from high school and I was in a position where I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And I think, it's a natural thing if you're a young person. Nobody's, you can't expect anybody to really have the clarity on what they want for their life at that age because you don't have enough life experience to really make that decision. I think one of the best things to do when you're young is to experience the buffet of life. Try a lot of different things to find out what your strengths and your weaknesses are and do self-development work on you to get more clarity on what you want and what you want to do with your life. And I think what happens is, and I realized this at a young age, is that a lot of people, they're going to university or school because, not because it's what they want, it's because the pressure from their parents, society, and believing that you have to have an education. They feel pressure because they see everyone else, all their peers and their friends going to school and university. They feel like they have that pressure to follow suit because they feel like they don't have that direction in their life if they're not doing the same thing. And I felt that, but I also knew some older friends, thankfully, that I was able to observe and see how a lot of people, they rush into going to school and university, wasting a lot of time and money to get a degree in education that they don't even use. And there's countless examples of that. I've got friends, for example, they've gone to school for engineering, tens of thousands, if not over $100,000, gone to school for accounting and all these different things. And yet their career today, they got the degree, but they're not even doing anything with it because they realized that wasn't their passion. They didn't enjoy it. And they ended up wasting that time and money. You could still say there's still some value they got from it, of course. But in terms of the time and money, there's other things they could have put that into where they would have gotten much greater returns in their life for sure. So it wasn't the optimal use of that and not ideal by any means. And so I realized that, and I decided to take a year or two off to travel, to work, to try different jobs. I was learning sales. I was doing a lot of self-development. And I think that's one of the best things that you can do because you got your whole life ahead of you. There's no rush to get into debt and, end up going down a path that might not be the best path for you. But anyways, at the time, I kind of realized that I did want to do some marketing. I did enjoy sales. And I was going through the buffet of life. I was trying different things. So I decided I was going to enroll in one class for one semester at a college. It's called Kwantlen College in British Columbia, Canada. And I decided, I was already working full time and it was just an evening class that I was going to take. And I wanted to test it out and kind of see. I was a little bit hesitant because I did not enjoy going to school and university, but I wanted to find what was that direction for me in my life. I ended up going to taking this term, this Introduction to Marketing course. I knew right away it was not for me. Right away, guys. I was there sitting in a class and I was learning from a professor, marketing, who had never marketed anything before in his life, never ever had a business before, was just regurgitating the stuff from a textbook, which most of it was not that practical or useful for me and relevant. It was not actionable. And it was more based, I was getting rewarded not based on results and taking action, but it was actually based on my ability to memorize information. And I soon realized that this was not the most efficient way if I really wanted to learn marketing, if I wanted to learn sales or business. Because I had a bit of a self-development background, I had realized that the easier and faster way towards success would actually be to model other people that have what I want. Someone that is actually doing marketing, someone that actually is running a business that already has success. Because if this professor, if he was a successful business person and a marketer, he would not be a professor. And that's not always the case, but I wanted to learn from someone that actually was living the results of what I was learning from them. And I realized there's certain distinctions I could get that would allow me to progress and grow in my life way more than I ever could just by reading this textbook and sitting there in this class. And I just also learned it wasn't the most conducive environment for me to learn. It was not the best use of my money. And I realized there was all these other ways that I could learn marketing. I could find the best marketers in the world and learn from them. That they have books, they have training programs and seminars and events that are a fraction of the cost. I mean, they still cost hundreds or thousands of dollars, but in comparison to what you learn in a 3-day seminar, learning from the best in the world and learning from them at what's working now today, and then you take that and you apply it to your life or your business, that was way more attractive and appealing to me than sitting, day after day, week after week in this classroom, learning all this theory and information, taking notes on it, but then having no practical way to apply it. So I've learned that the best way to learn is actually by modeling success of people who have those results And then number two, actually taking action and applying it. One of the things I teach in my work is that there's 3 levels of mastery. The first level is knowing, right? Where you just think, I'm going to get all the information, I'm going to know the steps, the strategies, the processes, all of that. But a lot of people, they get caught up there and it's a danger for them because the best way to really learn is by doing. And oftentimes people, they stay in that knowing zone because it's safe and it's comfortable. They don't have to risk anything. They don't have to take any action and risk failure or looking bad. So they stay just learning without actually doing and implementing. And so what I had realized is that a more efficient way to grow in my life, if I wanted to make money, build a business, learn marketing, was to learn from books and resources, from seminars and coaches and mentors, put my money into that rather than putting it into the education system, put it into that. That could allow me to grow and get more valuable information that's more practical and useful, and then applying it in my life. And by applying it, I'm actually really learning it on a much deeper level. Okay, I'm not just getting the intellectual theory of it, but I'm applying it and getting results from it. I could build a business as I'm learning, and I'm learning as I go. And so when I need more information and when I need the next steps, the next strategies, I can find the next training, the next coach, the next mentor, the next books, whatever it is to support my growth, and then apply, learn, do, keep applying, keep learning, and continue that process. And today, it's so much easier than it ever has been before because we have access that our parents and our grandparents did not have access to, called the internet, right? So we can get information a lot easier and faster than we did back before, which when, in that case, the education you can get from a university was more valuable, but not as much today because you have the greatest resource available called the internet that gives you access to the most successful people, to the best strategies, to the best information. All of that is much more valuable. Then also I read a book called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Highly recommend this book. What they've found is that the biggest indicator of success is not your IQ. It's not your intelligence. It's actually your EQ, your emotional quotient, your emotional intelligence. And that is the biggest problem with the education system, with colleges and university, is that you're learning information to get a degree, but you're not actually learning the emotional intelligence, the actual tools you need in order to be successful in your life. The emotional intelligence is determination, resourcefulness, resilience, confidence. It's the strength to be able to overcome any failure or obstacle in your life. It's your ability to be able to handle stress and anxiety. It's being able to push yourself and grow. It's the emotional intelligence that determines success a lot more than just your intelligence, your IQ. And that there's people, for me, I wasn't the smartest person by any means, and I'm still not, but I have the emotional intelligence, and that's been the biggest factor of my success. It's not because I'm a great academic learner. It's not because I did great in school. That does not translate to financial success and abundance, right? So it's getting clear on that and understanding that that is more important to develop and cultivate, because that's what's going to determine whether or not you even take action to begin with. That's going to give you the confidence to apply and do the things you need to do to create success in your life. So I realized that the education system in school was not conducive for that at all either. And then I also realized, listen, what do I want in my life? What is my vision? What's the lifestyle I want? Because a lot of people, they're going to school not having that in mind. They're not looking at the big picture of their life, and part of it is they don't know what's possible. And when I started getting into self-development, I realized the possibilities for my life expanded. I started to believe that I could have anything that I wanted. That if I wanted to be a multi-millionaire, if I wanted to be financially abundant, if I wanted to travel the world, if I wanted to give and impact the world in a huge way, that going to college or university was not going to get me there. In fact, traditionally what it would do was just get you a job where you're working for somebody else and you're trading your time for money. You're working to build their dream, not your own dream. And it was not going to create millions of dollars in my life. There's a limit to how much I can make. And because I was working for someone else, I would not have freedom in my life to travel and do what I want to do. And so I realized that's not the path for me to get to that outcome, to get to that vision, to get to that lifestyle. I just had a poor strategy, going to school, becoming an architect, which I thought I wanted to do in high school or whatever it was. That was not going to get me to where I want to go. So that's why I started to look at different ways. What is the path towards creating that vision? A multi-million-dollar lifestyle, to travel the world, all that. And I think what you got to do is you have to look at in school, what do you want? You got to start with that. Like, listen, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be an accountant, like if that's truly what you want and you want to be that, then yeah, you got to look at what's the best path to get there. And for you, it's probably going to school. It's probably going to university. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to have your own business, if you want to specialize in a certain skill or ability, if you want to have freedom to travel in a certain lifestyle, then school's not going to get you there. And you have to look at that. If you are going to be a doctor, great, and you love that, awesome, then go to school for that. But just understand, you can create amazing income from that, but it might not provide for you the lifestyle you want, the freedom. And now today, because of the internet, there's way more options available than there ever were before. It's easier to start a business today than it's ever been before. Anybody can do it from anywhere in the world with just a computer or a smartphone, and it's very inexpensive. And the lifestyle and the benefits from it trump any type of lifestyle or benefits you can often get from having a job. And oftentimes when you actually become an entrepreneur and you learn skills, the emotional intelligence, you have more security in your life than you ever will by going to get a job. People often say, well, getting a job and going to school, it provides security for you, where being an entrepreneur does not provide security. That's the biggest bullshit in the world. Are you kidding me? When you go to school and you get your education and get a job, you're not secure. Your entire livelihood is based on someone else, your boss, and at any moment they can fire you or let you go. That is not called having your own destiny in life in your own hands. You're at the mercy of someone else. And any moment they could fire you, let you go. There could be a recession. There could be changes in the economy that affect your livelihood. Technology is evolving where right now millions of people in the next number of years are going to be without jobs because there's robots and artificial intelligence that's coming, autonomous cars, all of these things that are changing the landscape. And oftentimes when people, they go to school or university and they're not evolving themselves, they're not learning how to add value, they're not learning how to be emotionally intelligent, to deal with those things. Like when you're an entrepreneur, for example, and you do your own self-education, you have to learn to develop the skills and the confidence to be able to make money whenever you need it. And so you take that with you. You're more equipped for the ever-changing world that we're going to be in and that's coming, versus the education system is not really preparing people for that. And so you got to take that into your own hands and evolve and grow yourself through learning from other successful people, right? Learning and mastering the skills and working on your mindset and reading books, etc., because that can allow you to be able to adapt to the changing world that we're in. So I just knew that path would not get me to where I want to go. Maybe it will for you, okay? Again, but I think you got to get clear on what you want. What do you want? What is the lifestyle? Get clear on that. For me, I want to travel the world. I want to make millions of dollars. I want to make a huge impact in the world. And going to school is not going to get me there. And so what I realized and decided, I'm going to take my education in my own hands. I'm going to be in charge of it. I'm going to dictate what I learn and where I learn. And because I'm in control of it, I'll be motivated to do it. Because back when I was in school, I had no motivation because they were teaching things to me that I did not care to learn. I didn't see the benefit and the value of learning it, and the teachers didn't know how to communicate or motivate the students to really learn that information. And if not, at best, I was just memorizing it and not actually applying it. So I'm into mastery, and I want to apply what I'm learning. I want to learn things and go deep with it. But what I realized is that when I put my learning in my hands, I loved it. I love it. I started reading books. I read hundreds and hundreds of books when I was 19, 20, 21, my early 20s and everything. Continue to read. And I thought things that mattered. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki and Cash Flow Quadrant. I learned the mindset of the most successful people. And even he shared his rich dad would say, do not go to school, start a business. His poor dad, who was a head of education in Hawaii, said, go to school, get an education. But one was poor, the other one was rich. So he decided to listen to his rich dad. But I read all these books and Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People by Stephen Covey or Dale Carnegie, and Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, all these classic books. So I'm taking in all this valuable knowledge from the greatest people throughout history and things they've learned, and I'm putting that within myself and I'm applying it. And then the money that I would put towards my education, going to school, university, and my tuition, these super expensive books that don't have much value after you read them, I decided that I was going to find the courses and the seminars. So for me, I decided I want to learn business. Great, I'm going to go to this marketing event, this business event. I'm going to learn from those people. I'm going to go through these workshops, these training programs, and invest my money that way to develop that education. Right? And then I'm going to hire mentors and coaches in my life that can help support me. And I pursued this not just with my career, but every aspect of my life, my health, my body, my emotions, my relationships. And I treated it that way versus a lot of people that go to college and university, and then once they graduate, their learning stops. I forget what that statistic was, but very few people end up even picking up a book after they're done graduating from college and university. And that's silly because learning is a lifelong endeavor. Should always be learning and growing. And I installed those habits within myself at a young age, and I continue to have done that. And guys, today I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into myself. Okay, but the education that I have invested in myself with has been through the methods that I've shared with you of hiring coaches and mentors, consultants, events and seminars and masterminds and courses and training programs. And then, of course, doing as I go and learning that way. I think a lot of people, for example, let's say that somebody wants to build a business and they go to school for that. I don't know how much that costs, maybe tens of thousands of dollars, let's say $30,000. Well, if you were to take that $30,000 and started a business, but you had some direction, like some courses or trainings, like learning how to sell on Amazon, for example, or doing an online business, affiliate marketing, blogging, whatever it is, you don't need to invest $30,000. You can invest $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, right? And get the ball rolling, and you're learning, but you're learning what actually matters and what's practical, and you're putting it into action. And let's say it takes you 4 years to graduate school and it costs you $30,000. At the end of it, you're left with a degree. But if you were to take that $30,000, even a fraction of that, and spend those 4 years, but you're actually applying and learning that way, by the end of those 4 years, you could have $1 million business. Right? And not just end up with a degree that can then, you got to then figure out how to take all this theory. And because you've been in this passive learning mode for so long and you just trained yourself how to remember things, but not actually how to implement and do things, you have no emotional intelligence, that's going to be even more challenging, in my opinion, right? To actually implement everything once you've been in that passive mode for so long. Again, the best way to learn is by doing, by taking action, right? It's not just by sitting there in a classroom and watching and memorizing stuff. It's by taking action and going through challenges and failures and mistakes, because you're going to learn so much more from going through those and conquering that you ever fucking will by just sitting in the textbook and reading about this other person or whatever it might be. So for me, that was the reason why. There's a few other reasons as well, but I just realized in terms of what I could put my money, my time into, it was just not efficient. It was not going to get me to where I wanted to go in my life. And I think you got to get clear on that. It was not conducive to my learning environment. I didn't have the motivation because I wanted to learn things that mattered, things that were important to me. And I take my education very seriously today, way more seriously, I would say, than someone at college or university does. Every day I'm reading, I'm studying, I'm taking notes, I'm creating flashcards, I'm reading them out loud, I'm doing rituals and habits to prepare myself. I'm taking massive action in my life, in every single area of my life, and I'm learning from the mistakes that I make. I have mentors and coaches that work with me. I've got a mastermind of people that we support each other with. And I want to ask you, who's going to get further in life? Who will get further in life? I would argue to say it's the person that has all of that and looks at ways to efficiently and effectively get to where they want to go. So that's my mindset. That's my approach. And I think the challenge is, if you're young and you live with your parents, they're going to try to control you and determine what's best for you. And it's because they love you and they don't know any other way. They have certainty, they have their beliefs. That's their model of the world. And it can be challenging to educate them that we live in a different world today, and there's many different options and ways that you can educate. And I had to go through the difficult situation when I was young to kind of sever ties, if you will, with my dad, because he had a vision for my life that was different than my own. And I knew what my vision was and what I wanted, so I had to decide, you know what, I'm going to go against I had to rebel against it, and it was difficult for a few years, my relationship with him, to be honest, but I'm grateful that I did. He's proud of me today immensely. And, it is something that I see a lot of young kids go through. And I think getting that clarity for yourself, knowing what you want, do it for you, not for anybody else. make smart decisions for your life. If you're in that position when you're 18 or 19 years old, you should be able to make your own decisions for your life. You're now an adult and getting clarity for yourself. But I think self-development, self-education is the most valuable thing. Is continue to learn and grow and improve. Understand that the best way to learn again is by doing. Find people that have the results you want. Learn from that. Invest in yourself, of course, just as you would with a school or education. But get clear on that and create a better plan that can actually get you to where you want to go. So that's my story. Hopefully this can add a different perspective or a different way or different path for you to creating success. But I think, again, it depends on what do you want. Only you can answer that for you. If you want to be, if you determine the best way to get to what you want to go is by going to school, great. But if you realize that it's not, that's okay too. There's many other ways to grow and to learn, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So listen, if you enjoyed this video, then subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Click the button below this video. There's a notification, a bell icon there too. Click that to turn on notifications. Hit thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment below. Share with me your perspective. I'd love to hear what that is. And yeah, look forward to seeing you guys again in the next video. Take care.